I'm going to teach you today to get out of the debt using the Avalanche method. If you are feeling like you're in debt, you don't know how to get out, you feel a little out of control, we're in the right place, because I'm going to walk you through in very simple terms how to do this. Most importantly, I'm going to show you a tip that a lot of people get wrong, and even some of the online calculators do it improperly, and I'll show you how to avoid that to make sure you can pay off your debt as quickly as possible. I'm going to show this in very simple terms, walk you through an example that you can apply yourself. And also, I'm going to show you an online calculator and put it in the description that you can use to use your numbers, what you owe, how much you owe, and put in your variables so that you can implement the same method. I'm going to show you how valuable it is, how much time and money you can save. But first, if you don't mind, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I always appreciate a like. It helps push the video out to more people. And if you have questions or comments, leave them below, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Before I get started, I'll say, by the way, I used this very method myself. It took me a number of years, but unfortunately I found myself in quite a bit of debt after I was divorced. And so I've used this method myself, and it'll work for you as well. So let's get started. So first, I put down a scenario, and yours obviously can be different. In this case, we've got 4 debts here. $8,000, and this is a credit card debt, at 25%. Our minimum payment is $200, and it's going to take us 87 months to pay it off. It's going to be paid, when you pay your $200, you're going to pay 167 of that $200 as an interest. This is our interest column. Next debt's $4,000, 30% interest, $150 our minimum monthly payment, 45 months to pay it off, and I'm going to put in the description a calculator so you can put in your numbers and you can determine how many months it'll take you to pay off based upon what payment you're making. And in this case, it's $100 a month of that payment is going to interest. You can see that when you use a calculator, you hit amortization table, it'll list out every month what goes to principal, what goes to interest. I've shown that in other videos. Initially, most of the money that's going to interest, that will go down every month, and the amount going to principal will go up every month. Then we've got $6,000 at 14%. This is a personal loan. That was a credit card. There's a personal loan. Let's just say that you had already used a personal loan in the past to consolidate some debt. You got a lower rate, 14%. That's why you use something like this to consolidate, because it's less than credit cards. $164 is your monthly payment. This is a fixed payment that you pay every month for 48 months, 4 years. And 70 of that is going to go to interest. Lastly, we've got a car loan, $21,000, 8%, $425 the monthly payment. 60 months is what it's going to take. So it's going to be 5 years. And 140 of that is going to go to interest. So what I total here is, just to show you, right now, in this particular scenario, and again, everyone's different. I'm showing you a method. It'll be different depending upon your numbers, but you'll be able to use the calculators and follow through. Replay the video, hit pause, put in your numbers, and see how you can save money. Every month, these payments add up to $939. Okay. The interest is $477. So of the $939, $477 is going just to interest. It's gone. You'll never see it again. That alone should really upset you, because half of what you're paying every month is not helping you get rid of your debts. So now let me show you how we can start attacking the debt. But the first thing I'm going to show you is the mistake that a lot of people make. It's not their fault. It's just something you've got to think through. And don't worry, because the online calculators, they do it wrong as well half the time. They don't show you how to do it. They just start spitting out numbers. So let me show you, because the data you put in will make a big difference on the data you get out. All right, before we get into that, let me explain the Avalanche method and how it works, and I'll also compare it to the Snowball method. I've got 2 examples here of a $4,000 credit card, 25%, minimum payment of $150. $10,000 credit card, 30%, minimum of $300. I'm just using this to explain the methods, and then we'll get into the scenario that we discussed in the beginning. Okay, the Avalanche method says you're going to attack the debt. Which one do you pick to go after first? You're going to first go after your 30%, the highest interest rate. That's how I should put it. In this case, the highest interest rate the highest percent. In this case, 30 is greater than 25, so we're going after this debt. And I chose this example on purpose because the snowball method says you go after the lowest balance. And the lowest balance would be the $4,000. Now, mathematically, it's proven that going after the highest percentage rate first will help you in the long term. You'll pay less interest. So when we go over the scenario of all the different debts, and you start attacking the highest percentage rate first, because that's the Avalanche method that we're going over today, you will end up paying less on interest and therefore saving more money. Okay, knowing that, why in the world would anyone do the snowball method and go after the lowest balance? Because in this case, it's the smallest percentage rate. It's more of a mental thing. Like many things in life, sometimes the only thing that matters is the thing you're actually going to do. So the only debt reduction method that matters, depending upon which one you pick and decide to implement, is the one you're actually going to do. So if you have a list of many debts, and some of them are small and some of them are larger, for some people, in order to keep going, they have to have that motivational factor. So they go after the smaller debts first, and they get to cross them off their list, and they're like, wow, okay, this is great. I feel good. I'm getting rid of some debts. This feels good. I'm going to keep doing this. For other people, that may not be as important, and therefore they'll say, you know what, I'm going to use the Avalanche method because in the long term. So I would encourage you to use what we're showing today, which is the Avalanche method, going after the higher percentage rate. Now, using this method, basically, how does it work? It works like this. These are the minimum payments on these two credit cards. So for a certain period of time, I don't have the months up here, but for a certain period of time, you're going to be paying $150 on this card and $300 on that card. That's $450 a month. The idea is you don't have additional money, so what do? Well, let's just say, for sake of argument, that this debt is paid off first. And let's say after 30 months, you're done. Great. So what do? Well, you can now have an extra $150 a month. You can go out and have a great time and go out to eat and buy new stuff and do whatever you want. Or you take the money and you apply it to this debt. So now the payment you're making on this one is now $450, right? Because you got your $150, it's not going here anymore. Add it to $300, you're now making $450 payment on this debt, which will allow the balance to go down much faster because this additional $150 goes right to principal, not interest, directly to paying down this debt. That's why it's like an avalanche coming down a hill. It gets bigger faster. And as you can imagine, when I show you the next example with more debts, as they're getting paid off, you're taking that money and compounding it. You're adding some to this debt. Then when that's done, you add those two to the next debt. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually the avalanche wipes out all your debt. Okay, that's the explanation of how to choose which debt to go after first, highest percentage rate, and then what to do when you're adding that additional money. You're adding the payments from the previous balance onto the next one. All right, now we'll move on. So now I'm going to show you a practical example, and I'm going to clarify a couple things, particularly the common mistake I was talking about. So follow me along here. $4,000 balance on a card at 20%. With a $100 a month payment is going to take 67 months to pay off. $4,000 balance at 30%, $200 payment is going to take 29 months to pay off. Okay, so we're discussing the Avalanche method. So I've got 5 columns here. Let's only focus on these 2 columns right here. This is the no Avalanche method and the actually using the Avalanche method. Remember, no Avalanche means when you're making this payment here, which is 29 months, at the end of 29 months, you have $200 available. If you're not using the Avalanche method, you just take that $200 and do whatever you want. Spend it on something else, go buy something else, you name it. If you're using the Avalanche method, you would take this $200 after the 29th month, and on the 30th month, since you don't have to send $200 here, you send your $200 here. And this becomes a $300 payment. That's why this balance goes down faster. So, if you're not applying the method and you're not adding to this debt, it's going to take you 67 months. That makes sense, because the longest debt is 67 months. You would end up paying $4,200 in interest. Let's just call it $4,000. So, you got your $4,000, $4,000, your $8,000, plus your $4,000 in interest alone. That's $12,000. You take the Avalanche method. When this one's done, you start sending $300 to this card, and now it's only going to take you 39 months. Huge difference. And $3,500 in interest. So the difference there is you're going to save $700, and you're also going to save 28 months, a little over 2 years. That's substantial. 2 years is a big difference. Why is it so substantial? Because at the end of 39 months, you no longer, since your debt's gone, have to send in $200 or $100. So now you have $300 additional every month to do whatever you want with after just a little over 3 years, as opposed to a little over 5 years. That's a big difference. Okay, now, what I wanted to explain was here, I've got 3 columns. What if you had an extra $100 a month? What would you do with it? That's here. What if you had an extra $200 a month? What if you had an extra $300 a month? Okay. If you had an extra $100 a month, and now I'm going to explain the mistake. See, if you've got an extra $100, you're going to have to send it to one of these 2 cards. Which one do you send it to? The Avalanche method says you send it to the highest percentage rate. That will make the fastest dent in your debt. Over time, you'll pay less interest. It's better for you. So the mistake that some people will make, if you put it in some of these calculators, there's a lot of Snowball calculators. You have to convert them to make them an Avalanche. The way to do that is to list out and put your highest percentage rate debt first, and then the second one is the next percentage rate and on down. I would encourage you to do that. It doesn't matter if you put the 30%, then the 20, then the 10, then the whatever, if you're just using the Avalanche method and you don't have additional funds. But what does matter is when you do have additional funds, and maybe that's periodic, maybe every now and then you have a little extra money, and you look and you say, where am I going to send it? Well, if you list them with the highest percentage rate first, you'll be more inclined to send to the very first debt. Trust me, I've made the mistake in the past of not sending to the right card. I sent it to a card, and then later I thought, oh man, why did I do that? It was too late, I already sent it. If I had listed them out properly. So I'm telling you because I've been there, done that, made the mistake, and hopefully you won't. So, again, to reiterate, list it by 30%, list it by your highest percentage rate first, debt-wise. And we'll do that in the next example. Let's say that you had an extra $100 a month. What would happen? Well, in black, I'm showing if you applied it to the 20%. You're going to go to 27 months and $2,500 in interest. Okay, 27 is significantly less than 39, 2,500, 3,500, you can save another $1,000. For just $100 extra a month, you're going to save $1,000, and you're going to save over a year, or exactly a year. Then, if you had an extra $200, look at this, you go to 20 months, only $1,900 in interest. If you had $300, you go to 16 months, only $1,500. All right, let's compare. No Avalanche method. It's going to take you over 5 years. An extra $300, you're going to do it in just over a year. $4,000 in interest, $1,500 in interest. You can see the difference. Now, if you're talking about like the example I'm going to show with many different debts, forget these exact numbers. Just look at the trajectory of 5 years to basically 1, or 4,000 to 1,500. Obviously, it is decreasing significantly faster. Okay, now, in blue, if you took the extra 100 and you did follow the Avalanche method properly, you would apply it to the highest percentage rate debt that you have. In this case, it's this one. If you apply it there, the difference would be not 27 months, but you'd save a month, and you'd save $300. You'd only pay $2,200 in interest, not $2,500. It just follows down the line. You end up with about the same amount of time. $1,600, you save money there. $300 there, you're saving whatever, a couple $300 here. You're going 16. So the point is, as you can see, it's better if you have extra money to make sure. I just wanted to prove it mathematically. And I put this in the calculator myself to make sure you apply it to the highest interest rate. Now, I would like to encourage you to try to obtain additional funds. Now, you might be saying to yourself, look, I want to use the Avalanche method. I don't have additional money, so why am I even bothering looking at this? Well, I want you to see if you just used Avalanche 39 months and you came up with a couple $100 a month, you could go from 39 months to 16, and you could still save $2,000. And that's just in this simple example. Imagine if these numbers were higher. These were not my actual numbers. My actual numbers were way worse. My situation was, I wouldn't even want to put it on the board. It would make you cry. It made me cry. So in my case, these numbers were substantially larger. So when I put it in the calculator, and I'll have a link below, and in a moment I'm going to show you how to use the calculator. It just takes a second. I was able to see how much time and how much money I would save. So what did I do? Well, I did one of three things, and actually I did all three things. One, if you're talking about paying something off for 3 years or 5 years, you're talking about a substantial amount of time. A lot of things can change during that time. You want to see if you can increase your income, either take another job, or maybe you got a raise, or maybe you own your own business and you're able to make a little more money. 2, decrease your expenses. Talk about that in a second. And 3, sell stuff. So whether or not you get an increase in your job might not really be within your control to increase your income. Now, getting another job may be, who knows what the circumstances are. That is what it is. You're either going to be able to do it or you're not. You're going to take another job or you're not. Lastly was the selling things. Look around. A lot of people have we just had junk everywhere that we had stored. It's amazing what you can sell on eBay, and it's amazing how quickly you can sell things on Facebook Marketplace. They'll just come to your house and pick it up. But what I did when I found myself in the situation I was in is I was able to decrease my expenses substantially. And you'd be surprised what you can actually do. When my children were with me in the hot summer months, we had the air conditioning cranked. Everyone felt great. When they weren't with me, I killed the air conditioner and I slept in the basement because it was cold in the basement. I saved $100 to $150 a month in electricity bills. At the time, we had been paying someone to cut the grass. When I was living by myself, decided, well, obviously I can do that myself. I did that for years when I was a kid. That was easy. I saved another $150 a month just cutting my own grass after buying a lawnmower for cheap. We used to pay someone to clean the house for $200. Well, instead, or actually it was more than that, a month. Instead, every Saturday morning, I would get up and for 4 hours, I would clean all the bathrooms. I would clean the kitchen. I would vacuum. It took a while, but it was worth it. I was able to come up with another like $500 just with those basic expenses. So do what you can to sell what you can and apply that extra money to the highest percentage rate. See if you can increase your income somehow. But we can always look to save on expenses. That's why you want to budget. And I've got videos on simple, quick ways to budget. So now that you see, and we've proven out that in the Avalanche method, if you've got additional funds, you always want to make sure you're going at the highest percentage rate first. Okay, let's move on. All right, finally, now we're going to get to the example that I originally showed with our different debts. $4,000 we had on a credit card at 30%, $200 month payment, 87 months. Then we had a credit card at $8,000, 25%. These are our minimum payments, and these are how many months it was going to take. 6,014, 20. It was representing 2 credit cards, a personal loan, and a car loan. Okay, why do I list it out like this and bother to put it on the board? Well, I want you to take and make a list of your own debts. And we went over the common mistake that was made of not listing your highest percentage first. So if you have extra money, you apply it there. And then how exactly the Avalanche method works, taking that money as one debt's paid off and applying it to the next debt, and then following that so that each one gets larger as you pay them down. And then, so in other words, as this first one's paid off, you move the money to the next one, and that one's paid off, you move that money to the next one. So we went, and then we proved that you wanted to pay the highest percentage first. We proved it mathematically. Okay, so you went through all that pain, you suffered through the previous beginning of the video that I walked through, and now we're finally going to get to an example. An example that you can sit down and just write out your debts, put them in the calculator I'm going to show in a moment, and then it will tell you exactly what to do. It'll tell you how much to apply to each debt and when to move from one debt to the next. Okay, so let's just look at this example here. The no avalanche method, remember from what we showed before, basically means that when one of these is paid off, and if you look at the timing, this one's 45 months. All right, so this guy is obviously, if you just make these payments every month, this one will be paid off first. When you have the $150, remember you just go out and throw a party and have a lot of fun. Now, you take the $150 and you apply it to the next debt. The next debt you would apply to looks like, it's going to tell you in the calculator it's going to go to the highest percentage rate. So this 150 is going to go up here, and you will no longer send in 200 on the 40, since it's paid off in the 45th month. In the 46th month, the calculator is going to show you, hey, take the 150, put it up there, and now you're going to be sending in 350. So you'll always be sending in the same amount of money if you're using the Avalanche method. If you're not using the Avalanche method, you're going to take that 150, do whatever you want, and then when the next one's paid off at 164, you'll do whatever you want with that. Okay, so without using the Avalanche method, that's why you're here learning this, it's going to take you 87 months, and you're going to pay $18,000 in interest. So you'll pay off all this principal plus $18,000 in interest. Okay. If you're going to apply the Avalanche method, like we said, and move the money to the next debt, you're going to end up at just 60 months, and it's going to cost you $16,500 in interest. So what's the difference there? Well, the difference is, I put it in green, you're going to save by using Avalanche. And remember, the Avalanche method does not require you to come up with any additional money. You're just applying it to the next debt. So you're going to save 27 months, which is 2 years, and you're going to save $1,900. That's substantial. The money's substantial. 27 months is substantial. And I believe the total here that you were paying every month, I think was $939, if I'm adding that correctly. So what that means is at the end of 60 months, you'll now have $939 that you're no longer sending to debt because this is now paid off. On the 61st month, this is all gone, and you have $939 to do whatever you want with. Right? That's great. That is substantial. It's almost $1,000, and you won't have to do it for another 27 months. Okay. Now, remember, I put up in the other example, what if you could come up with additional money? Because I want to encourage you to do whatever you can to increase your income or sell things you can get rid of. And even if you just sell items here and there, you can always throw it at the highest percentage rate debt as you get it. It'll still make a dent. Or just decrease your monthly expenses. An extra $100 in this scenario saves you, from the no Avalanche method, it saves you 37 months. And it saves you almost $6,000. An extra $100 a month. Okay, get rid of cable, do whatever you got to do, get $100 a month. You will save $6,000. That is substantial. And you're going to save 37 months. That's 3 years. If you can get an extra $250 a month, I'm just showing these as examples, you're going to save 46 months. That's almost 4 years. And you're going to save $9,000. And then again, with $500, you're going to go to 55 months is what you're going to save. And it's going to take you $11,531. So what does that mean if you had the extra $500? Well, since it's only going to take you 32 months, you've gone from 7 years if you don't do anything. 7 years. You got 5 years if you follow the Avalanche method, and you could save substantially. You could save another year. You could take it all the way down to potentially 3 years, depending upon how much additional you're able to put together. So I hope this helps you. Now I'm going to show you the calculator with a link. And remember, you're going to list out your debts, the highest to the lowest, because the calculator is actually a snowball calculator, but we're using the Avalanche method, which is applied to the highest percentage rate first. So go get all of your debts and everything you have, list out the balances, list out the percentage rates, put them in order of highest percentage rate first, then go down, right? Put your minimum payments, put the amount of time it's going to take you to pay it off. You might have to use a calculator if you're talking about credit cards. If you're talking about installment loans like a car or a personal loan, they'll tell you exactly how many months it takes. Put it into the calculator, and then I'm going to show you where you can say, well, you know what if I had an extra $50 a month? You put it in the calculator, you hit go, and it'll tell you how much more you can save. Okay, so take a look and take the time to watch this. It's only going to take a couple minutes, maybe just 2. It'll show you exactly how to use it.
Here is the calculator that's in the description below. It says here at the top, Snowball calculator, but don't worry about that because I'm going to show you here how we turn it into the Avalanche calculator. Now, you list, just like we did on the board, this is the exact same example. You're going to want to list by the interest rate, highest interest rate first. So here you can see we put card 1 first because it's 30%. You put in a name. You can name them anything you want. I called it card 1, $4,000, 30% interest rate, and the payment's $150 a month. It calculates interest and how many months it'll take you. Card 2, $8,025%, and we put the personal loan, we put the car loan, just like on the board. Now what you do here, you scroll down here and you click Calculate Debt Snowball. This first line is what's going to happen if you don't do anything. In other words, you don't implement the Avalanche method. You just simply pay off each debt, and when the money becomes available from paying one off, you do whatever you want. What we were showing is the Avalanche method, where you take that additional money as a debt's paid off and you pay it off onto the next debt. So here you can see you don't need additional funds. You're still paying $939 every month, but you're going to save, and you're going to pay $16,000 in interest, not $18,000. So right here it tells you a summary of the savings. You're going to save $2,000, and instead of taking 87 months, it's going to take 60. Therefore, you saved 27 months, just like you saw on the board. Now, we listed them out here. Card 1 is number 1. Card 2 is number 2. Personal loan number 3. Here's why that's important. If you continue to scroll down, and this is why I like this calculator, they give you a payment schedule. So this is credit card 1, credit card 2, the personal loan, and the car loan. And here's the column. So this row represents month 1. This row represents month 2. So all you do is you send in $150 to that card as usual, $200 to that card, $164, $425 month 1. Month 2, you're doing the same thing. But as you scroll down, and you can see that first card is paid off in the 45th month. You don't quite owe $150. And this card was $200. So what happens? Well, now that $150 is available, it gets moved to the next highest percentage rate. That's the Avalanche method. So that $150 goes to this card. So you can see the card was $200, but now that this one's paid off and you're no longer sending money in, it's going to be $200 plus $150. $150 plus $200 is $350. There you go. Now you're sending $350 in to that second card. Now here's what's interesting, is you can see over here, this third, which is the personal loan, was paid off before this credit card. So what happened to the $164? You didn't move it over here. You moved it to the next highest percentage rate debt, which is this credit card. So $150, $200 was $350. $350 plus $164 ends up being $514. So as this one was paid off, it went over here. And as this one was paid off, it went over here, which pays off this one faster. So it tells you exactly what to do every month. Lastly, let me just show you this real simple, I love this, enter a dollar amount you can add to your plan. Like in our example, we said, okay, well, what if we came up with another $100 a month? Simply put it in there, click to calculate, and as you scroll down, it'll show you, instead of $939 a month, you're adding $100 a month. So obviously you're now paying $1,039 a month. But it's going to save you 37 months and $6,000. And then as you scroll down, since you found an extra $100, what did it do? Well, remember, it was $150 here on the first card, $200, $164, $250. Now it's $250. Why? Because it took the $150 payment. This is the highest percentage rate debt you have, and it added the extra $100. Watch what happens if we said it was $200. We should expect it to say $350. Click, move down. Yep, $350. And on and on. If I put $400 here, it would be $450. And as you can see, it's going to pay it off faster. And then you can quickly see the summary. So you can sit here and say, how much can I come up with? And trust me, this is a real motivating factor, because every time you type in another number and you click calculate, it's going to show you how much time and how much money you're going to save. And right here, how many years. So instead of 87 months, it's going to take 35 months. So that's it. It's that simple. This will be in the link in the description below. And I hope this is helpful.